Hey Podsmashers! Today's episode is a special bonus episode of 80-Bit Podsmash. We are discussing the ongoing breaking news story regarding Blizzard Entertainment and the Hong Kong protests. We are recording this as our de facto intro as we go right into the discussion without any preamble. We wanted to strike while the iron was hot, so the episode won't have our usual edits, so it may be more raw than you're used to with more ums and ahs than you would usually expect. The rest of this discussion will air on Monday, October 14th as a full episode. We do hope you enjoy this.
Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to a very special episode of
80-Bit Podsmash,
Where Gaming Goes to Grab a Beer.
We're your hosts, Penguin and Termite. I'm Penguin.
I'm Termite, and we are a weekly video game podcast smashing together ideas that you care about with video games.
Yeah.
And the reason why we said it was a very special episode tonight is...
What happened with Blizzard?
Okay.
So, I saw a comment on Reddit. I'm going to preface all of this by saying I saw a comment on Reddit that I want to start off by talking about. And it was, they said, watching Blizzard's PR team is like watching someone kick themselves in the face over and over and over again.
They just keep doing
because for the past year, Blizzard has had highs and lows, but mostly lows. You know what I mean? Like, ever since last year's BlizzCon and the Do You Not Have Phones debacle, we've seen failure and misstep after failure and misstep for them. Doesn't help the fact that this past year they've had no new game releases. All of the games they've released have been existing, like, not even expansions into the existing IPs. They've just been old games they've remastered. WoW Classic.
Yep.
And that's it. Actually, that's not the only game.
Warcraft 3 Reforged.
But Warcraft 3 Reforged still doesn't have a release date.
I'm extremely excited about, and it doesn't have a release date.
It still doesn't have a release date, so at this point, it's not going to hit that fall window, more than likely.
Yeah.
So,
and then its parent company, Activision, has only released Call of Duty, and they were behind Sekiro, which I didn't realize until recently. But that's the only two games they've had that are new.
Yeah, so Blizzard
Activision
is
umbrella.
already under some pretty thin ice with their fan base, and then the events of the last few days have happened. We got to give some context, though. So this is we're giving a lot of context for a... I promise we'll get to the payoff. So these are going to be seemingly unrelated things until we get to them. But this is also going to be like a few days after all this has gone down. So you guys probably already know most of it. Anyways, China. We got to talk about China.
Yes. So you want to just talk about the events going on in China now?
Let's talk about the events in China because they're foundational to what we're talking about here. So the bottom line is Hong Kong exists and used to be a British colony, right? When back from and in as recently as 1997, Hong Kong was given back up to the Chinese government. Like England said, we are relinquishing any involvement in this country, but the arrangement that they made was like this country's still going to operate kind of autonomously while also still being a part of China. The philosophy was one country, two systems. And you can think about, if it helps, you can think about it in terms of like Puerto Rico for the United States. Puerto Rico is not part of the United States, but it sort of and operates autonomously from the United States, but it's under the sort of umbrella United States protection. The situations are a little bit different, but that's kind of what helped me. That comparison helped me
understand what's going on.
Yeah, understand what's going on. So Hong Kong is supposed to exist, supposed to sort of operate autonomously. However, that's how it's a perfect world. This is not a perfect world. What more than often happens with Hong Kong's politics is Beijing, which is the capital of China, mainland China, gets their hands involved in stuff going on. So fast forward to 2019, we're looking at 22 years later. And what happened over the summer is the pro-Beijing executive, which is the chief executive or whatever, is the essentially think of it as the president of Hong Kong, who is not elected by the people of Hong Kong, is more or less appointed by
Beijing.
China, mainland China. So of course she's pro-Beijing. She released started a bill through their Senate or whatever, or their equivalent of Senate, to vote on new extradition laws. Extradition means that if someone commits a crime in a country and then flees to Hong Kong, that country can extradite them and say we are forcefully bringing them back into our country to face trial. Hong Kong has existing laws, extradition laws, like every country has extradition laws. The bill was to expand those to include mainland China and Taiwan, I think.
Okay.
What this would mean, though, is for the people who then started protesting this bill was if someone were to go criticize China's government because they're a communist regime, they are authoritarian and censor their people. If someone were to go criticize them in mainland China, then goes back home to Hong Kong, they could be extradited, brought back to China to face trial.
Yep.
People don't like that.
Yeah.
Bottom line is people don't like that. So protests began to protest the extradition laws. They kind of grew in size and scope and have sort of taken on a life of their own because the bill has actually been struck down and withdrawn as of September.
Yep. That's like last month.
But the protests took on a life of their own and are now the protests are more about establishing a democratic system in Hong Kong. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the Chinese government does not want this, but obviously, Western democracies do want this, sort of on a broad term scale. Okay, that's the context.
But
that's
the riots and the protests have started since July.
Yeah, they've been going on for
through
almost
August,
4 months
September,
now.
right?
Yeah,
and now they're also looking into an inquiry into police actions.
Exactly,
responding to that,
Mm-hmm.
there was a show of force from mainland China on the bordering. I don't remember the border state of Beijing, or I'm sorry, of Hong Kong, but there was like a line of military lining up against the border of Hong Kong.
Yeah, I think the protesters want 5 things. They want no more extradition laws to be brought up. They want a democratic system established, and they want the police to kind of admit their wrongdoing and an inquiry, an independent inquiry, to be launched into like what's going on with to investigate the police brutality and all that stuff. There's more as well.
Justice. They want justice.
They want justice. Yeah, they want justice.
They want to be represented fairly under a constitution.
And they don't want to be censored. Yeah, other stuff that's been happening is like
right. They don't want to be censored. They want freedom of speech.
General censorship.
Right.
Yeah, a ton of censorship.
That's
has been going on.
climate.
That's what's happening in China. Why is this important to Blizzard?
Right.
Like, what does this have to do with Blizzard?
Right. Now we're going to get into some quotes. So Kotaku, and I'm going to quote, Brian Ashcroft at Kotaku has posted, during the Hearthstone Grandmasters, that's a tournament for Hearthstone esports, Hong Kong player Chung Blitzchung, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, maybe Ning Wei, appeared on an official Taiwanese Hearthstone stream in a gas mask and called for the liberation of his city, Hong Kong.
Yeah, this was after he won. He was being interviewed on like a live broadcast.
Yep.
And he said, I believe the exact quote was, "Liberate Hong Kong. This is the revolution of our time," or something like that.
Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age.
Yeah.
The 2 casters on the stream next to him hid underneath the desk, apparently wanting nothing to do with the player's statements. According to Inven Global, that's an organization, a journalistic, they told him, "Okay, that's it, Blitz bro." The stream then quickly cut to a commercial. Blitzchung, that's the guy who, the champion itself, issued the following statement. This is what he said. "As you know, there are serious protests in my country now. My call on stream was just another form of participation of the protest that I wish to grab more attention. I put so much effort into that social movement in the past few months that I sometimes couldn't focus on preparing my Grandmaster match." Yet he won. "I know that my action on stream means it could cause me a lot of trouble, even my personal safety in real life. But I think it's my duty to say something about the issue." So that happened.
Okay, yeah.
So that's not even Blizzard's response yet.
Right.
That just happened.
Just to succinctly describe what's happened is all these protests are happening in China. A Hong Kong player in a Hearthstone tournament that happened in Asia.
Hearthstone's a Blizzard game.
Hearthstone is a Blizzard game, yes. Hearthstone is a Blizzard card game based on the World of Warcraft universe.
Yep.
He came out as he basically made a pro-democracy, pro-protester, pro-Hong Kong statement on during an official Blizzard interview after the tournament. Sorry, go on.
Yep. And
so Blizzard's statement, Blizzard's response came. Was it today or was it a few days ago?
I don't even know when it was. So Blizzard had removed him of his championship, took his prize money, and banned him for a year.
Yeah, so they
you can no longer participate in any more Hearthstone tournaments for a year as an esports player.
And we also revoke, take away your winnings.
Yes.
I don't know if they've actually said that he's they've struck him from the record of
that's true.
the competition.
They did not give him the money.
They definitely didn't give him the money,
Correct.
though.
And he's
yes.
not eligible to participate for a year.
For a year, yep.
Those are the things we know for sure. So Blizzard, clearly aware of the political repercussions in the Chinese market for such a statement, have determined that Blitzchung violated a competition rule. So this is what Blizzard has said he violated.
Yeah, so Blizzard,
Which states, the 2019 Hearthstone Grandmasters Official Competition Rules, version 1.4, on page 12, section 6.1. Like, that's exactly where it is. Engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image, will result in the removal from Grandmasters and reduction of the player's prize total to $0 USD, in addition to other remedies which may be provided for under the handbook of and Blizzard's website terms. So Blitzchung's punishment is an immediate removal from Grandmasters, a withholding of prize money for his participation, and a ban from taking part in Hearthstone's esports for 12 months, beginning October 5th, 2019, and extending through October 5th, 2020. Blizzard also added that despite them physically ducking from his comments on air and immediately cutting into a commercial, the company will also immediately cease working with both casters involved in airing Blitzchung statements. Blizzard ended their ruling by saying, while we stand by one's right to express individual thoughts and opinions, players and other participants that elect to participate in our esports competitions must abide by the official competition rules.
Okay, so breaking that down from just a simple, like, what happened. So we're not even talking about our opinions on this, just what happened.
So,
okay, Blizzard determined that he violated the rules of the tournament, which say that Blizzard is the sole discretion.
Yep.
So Blizzard has the right to determine what political statements they think players should or shouldn't make, and and based on the criteria of whether or not it offends a certain amount of the population or otherwise damages Blizzard's image.
Yeah.
So they said that he made a statement that we think is too political, and so he has now been, as we said before, banned from future tournaments. His winnings have been revoked. But in addition to that, the two people involved in the interview were also fired.
Yeah.
As a result,
even though they were ducking,
even though they were not,
dodging, and they cut to a commercial immediately.
We'll come back to that because there is some apparently there are some complications I just read about. There are some clarifying things to talk about in regards to the two people who were fired collaterally.
Okay.
But we'll get back to that.
Yep.
Let's talk about this. So this is what happened. That is what happened. Is a Hearthstone tournament player was basically cut from and revoked their winnings. Why is this important? Why are we spending time talking about this? Why
one
has
more
this
thing that
issue
happened today
blown up? Oh, okay, go for it.
That continues to add to fuel to this fire. And so Ian Walker, a different reporter for Kotaku, now a different article, reported that during all this turmoil, the Blizzard forum on Reddit has chosen to close until further notice.
Yep,
so Reddit's now shut down.
So their r/Blizzard, which was apparently moderated by their employees, it was turned to private, so people could not make comments on it.
Right.
The other Blizzard related subreddits, as far as I know, like our classic WoW, our WoW, StarCraft, Hearthstone.
These are all subreddits for
they're all subreddits for the individual titles,
They're
and
still
as
good.
far as I'm aware, they are not moderated by Blizzard employees. Therefore, they have discussions
there,
and you
happens.
can still look at you can still. But the Blizzard apparently moderated one.
So there you go.
Has been turned off. I also know that they've been removing on their official forums, on the Blizzard official forums, they have been removing posts related to the incident as well.
This whole thing, as first was reported by Eurogamer, I'm continuing to quote, moderators at the Blizzard subreddit set the forum to be private this afternoon. Naturally, players and fans continue to voice anger and dissatisfaction with Blizzard elsewhere. For now, the Hearthstone subreddit remains active, with much of the discussion focused on how to request refunds for various Blizzard purchases, and some saying they are quitting Hearthstone altogether in protest of wise punishment.
Yeah, so let's get into the reaction. So a large portion of the fan base is very, very mad. Termite just threw his notes because all of his printed notes were gone.
I read all of it.
So a lot of the players are very angry at this, and one could argue for very good reason. So let's break down what is the reaction to this? Why is there a reaction to this? So Blizzard says that they've banned this guy because that he broke a rule.
Right.
Fair. That is a fair point.
Yep.
How people have been interpreting their ruling, though, is that Blizzard in an effort to not offend the Chinese government, who again have been censoring anything pro-democracy and Hong Kong related, anything in support of that. Because some more context is like the NBA, one of the NBA's team managers, tweeted something in support of Hong Kong, and they too were forced to apologize because the Chinese government threatened to stop broadcasting NBA. So a similar situation is happening here, where China's government saying it's pressuring Blizzard to take action against this player because he came out in support of Hong Kong. That is so the interpretation of Blizzard's actions has been, you care more about the money that Chinese and their market can offer you than you care about the Chinese people who are suffering under an oppressive regime. That is the interpretation.
Right. And that is the complicit because of silence.
Yes.
Right. So that's Blizzard being very PR, and that's why DLC
Well, but it's not
cheeky.
silence. They're actually taking action, and
their action was very PR. It was like, here's our policy.
Right.
This guy violated it. This is the only reason we're doing it. This policy was in place before any of this Hong Kong stuff came up. I'm speaking in terms of like,
sure.
This is maybe what Blizzard's PR is trying to put forward,
Right.
and that's the PR spin.
The irony is that they've made no clear, other than their original statement saying this is what happened, we banned him.
So they're just saying, this guy violated our policy and we banned him for that. That's it. That's all they're trying to say. And I can see where Blizzard's being backed into a corner by their fans, because the silence against anything else that's very obvious and very loud is happening with all these protests in Hong Kong are putting Blizzard in a tough spot. Like, where are you? Because you are complicit in the detriment of human life because you favor the money that you're making through Chinese.
So let's break down let's look at their statement. Let's sort of be critical of their statement here.
Yeah.
What Blizzard is essentially trying to do is Blizzard's trying to essentially say, hey, we don't want to take a side. We want to be apolitical in this regard.
Right.
We don't want to be involved in a protest that has nothing necessarily to do with our operations in our country. Therefore, we have created this thing. Let's break that down. Okay. I will say, Blizzard 100% absolutely has a right to restrict speech as a private company with their private events.
Yep. NFL did the same thing with
However,
Colin Kaepernick.
Sure, yeah, exactly. You have the right to that.
Like, you're an NFL, you're an organization, you pay your players like that.
Right.
You have that.
But there is the argument is always, okay, you have the right in our country to say whatever you want.
Right.
But you don't have the right to avoid the consequences of saying whatever you want.
Yep.
The same thing applies here. Blizzard has the right to restrict whatever speech they want. They don't have a right to avoid the consequences of that.
Yeah.
That's not some magic bullet to explain away. Well, we said you can't say whatever you want, therefore, if we choose to restrict and take action, we're justified, right? Nope.
Yeah.
You are still culpable and responsible for what you then choose to restrict. This particular issue, there are some issues, I think I told you, I said this to you earlier, I said there are some issues that you can choose to be politically neutral on, that you can choose to not take a stance on. With the stuff that's going on in Hong Kong, they are essentially censoring their people, they are acting specifically against democratic ideals. They're really trying to basically, act in a way that is contrary to Western democracies and the ideals that our country was founded upon. Those people are essentially suffering under, and the people who are fighting for a more fair and equal system are being oppressed by their government. That's not something you want to come across as condoning.
Right. You don't want to do that.
Whether you actually intend that or not, that is the side they are coming down on. They are essentially, communication is, essentially this is just at the bottom line, at the end of the day, this is just a communication issue, right? Like, I can say something to you and I can intend one thing, but if you interpret it the way that I didn't intend it, that's on me. That was a failure of communication on my part. If I'm trying to be like, hey, Termite, you're such a swell guy, and maybe I'm intending that but if I have a sarcastic tone or whatever, and you interpret it as me being a jerk,
and I'm like, hey, what's up?
That's on me. That's on me for the way I communicated it. The same thing happens on a massive political scale too. You know what I mean? Like, they could have intended one thing. They could have intended on being like, hey, look, this guy violated our terms. But the problem is, what's being interpreted is we care more about money than we do about human rights.
Yeah.
That's on Blizzard, unfortunately. I'm sorry. You could have intended it one way or another, but that's on you.
They need to say something.
They need
to talk.
They need to reverse that because China does account for a large percentage of their funds. I was unable to get an exact number, but the one that I kept seeing was 12%. About 12% of their revenue is from Chinese market.
Yeah.
That's a big number. Mm-hmm. 88% is a bigger number.
Right.
And if 88% represents a combination of UK, Europe, United States, and Canada, and that being kind of the West, and if the West represents, I guess, the Oceania, New Zealand and Australia would be included in that. If the West accounts for 88% of your revenue and you have potentially alienated them, they need to do some damage control. But the problem is a whole day has gone by silence from them, and the story is getting out of control. And they are coming across, as South Park has done a very recent...
What's that about?
The South Park episode. Yeah, so South Park did an episode basically outlining this phenomenon where they were hitting Disney and they were hitting the NBA. The stuff with Blizzard hadn't happened yet. They would have probably hit Blizzard if it had happened, if this episode aired a week later.
Yeah.
But South Park did an episode, a wonderful, genius. It's like true to South Park form. It's so good. I've watched it twice. It's so good.
So it's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu. It's actually on South Park's website for free. You should totally watch it tonight. The episode is a criticism of this phenomenon where American and Western companies change the content of their stuff to appeal to Chinese censors so that they are not barred from the Chinese market. They make a
specialized version of their product for China.
Right, or they specifically avoid, like... No, it's not even a specialized version. And that sometimes happens too. But what we're seeing happen on a bigger scale is like Disney movies are now just avoiding certain topics altogether because they don't want Disney
on a grand scale. Like from the get-go.
So it's affecting American audiences as well. Like we're not getting certain things presented because...
They want to appeal to Chinese market.
They want to appeal to the Chinese market.
Right.
So it's actually affecting what we see because they're trying to appeal to a Chinese market.
Yeah.
So, and it's all about money. Again, it's not...
It's totally about money. Yeah.
So they basically hit that topic. So they were criticizing that crazy, basically. So apparently there's also something about Winnie the Pooh being compared to... Like, people on the internet compared what Winnie the Pooh looks like to the Chinese president. And so now that's an actual thing that's happened. And now Winnie the Pooh is banned in China because... Again, they're censoring. They don't want any criticism of their government, even if it's something as silly as your president looks like Winnie the Pooh.
Right.
So they make fun of that in the episode. They dig their knives into both American businesses and China
policies.
Policies, and it's scathingly beautiful. It's wonderful. Everyone should go watch that episode because it is so relevant to what's happening now.
That's not a family-friendly show.
It's not a family-friendly show. Sorry, everyone but kids under the age of 18 at their parents' discretion.
Yeah, parents' discretion advised.
Should go watch it. It is an excellent summary of the phenomenon that's happening. Of course, they got banned in China. Of course. Now, even searching in the Chinese search engine, if you try to search South Park, you could get a finable offense.
Wow.
So that's the level of censorship we're dealing with in this country. Like, I need you, like, I hope our listeners understand that this isn't just some little thing. This is like Big Brother level, 1984 level crap that's happening in this country right now, and they are it's nuts. Anyways, you also have to then go read Matt and Trey's response to being banned.
I did see that. That was funny.
So good. They're just like, we totally accept our Chinese overlords and accept their censors into our lives. Like, it's so good. So yeah, they're very proud of being banned. But obviously, you can see now it's affecting the gaming industry through Blizzard Entertainment and how they are. It's just this matter of like, it would be one thing. Again, in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, how could this have been handled differently? Like, definitely pull the video from Twitch. Pulling the video from Twitch, giving him a nice slap on the wrist and a warning saying, hey, if you do this again, like, we're going to have problems. Yeah. Maybe even going so far as to suspend him from play. But the fact that they went and fired these other two guys strikes me as just it's a scorched earth policy, right? It's saying we are going to fire and punish everybody involved so that nobody does this again. Yeah, that is censorship. So it's no longer just a matter of like, it's one thing if Blizzard is sort of kowtowing to the censors and saying, hey, like, we don't want to offend you, but now they're actually actively participating in the censorship itself.
Well, in some degrees, yes, they are with their products and under the control of what Blizzard has, which is a tiny little like dot on the grand social media outlets of the world. So it's not like Blizzard is making active attempts to shut down news outlets that are trying to report on this. It's like my name as a Blizzard entity, like the company name is tied to this. So scorched earth on everything that affects Blizzard's name.
Yeah, I will also say, as a clarifying statement, I will say there was one article I read today that clarified that apparently the newscasters were egging him on to make the statement as well.
Yeah, apparently they were too.
So
yeah,
apparently
I saw that.
in Mandarin they were saying like, hey, you should say these 8 words or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we'll cut so apparently that does muddy the waters a little bit too.
Yep.
It doesn't change the fact that unfortunately Blizzard, again, like, no matter what your stance on all this is, at the end of the day, Blizzard's in hot water with their fans. They were already in hot water, and now they've just turned the boiling point up significantly more. I, for one, personally do not agree with Blizzard's actions. I think that they went overboard in the way that they've done this, and I can totally understand the reaction of, and I agree with the reaction of, like, this company is clearly just like trying to appease censors because they're trying to make money as opposed to trying to do the right thing.
Right.
We're entering a point with this particular issue, now that it's in the public forefront, now that it's been part of that South Park, at least for me, part of that with South Park was really brought it to my attention.
Yeah.
We're going to reach a point where it's like you won't be able to not take a side. Businesses are going to be asked by their, in the same way with like gay rights, in the same way with immigration, like businesses are going to be confronted by their consumers with what is your stance on this issue, and they'll have to take a side, which means they'll have to sacrifice something.
Right.
That is the issue, is are you willing, and this comes down to us as individuals as well, are you willing to sacrifice something that you want? In the case of the businesses, it is the money that China offers for principled ideas. Like, do you truly, this is where the rubber meets the road, right? Do you truly believe that people should be free and have freedom of speech, or is that just empty words because you want money? But that comes down to us as individuals as well. So that's why I have said for myself, unless Blizzard reverses this ban, at the very least reverses this ban, and ideally if they fire those who are responsible, only then and only then will I be willing to purchase their products. So for myself, I am boycotting Blizzard. I am not going to purchase any WoW time. I'm not going to purchase Diablo 4. I probably won't even watch BlizzCon. I may read what they announce later.
Of course you're going to read it, because you can't help it.
Right.
Google Feed's going to give it to you,
exactly,
whether you want it or not.
Yeah, but I will not be participating in Blizzard activities.
Yeah, and it's interesting
because I will encourage I have already encouraged my friends, and I'm encouraging my listeners to do the same. This company is, in my opinion, this company is currently complicit in censorship. Whether they intended it or not, they are still involved in it, and I do not stand by them.
Yeah.
I will not stand by them, and I will hit them the only way I can, which is their wallets.
Yeah, that's what you have to do.
That's what.
As video game consumers, you have to vote with your wallet.
And I truly hope that we're reaching a tipping point in. I've seen enough outrage in the gaming community from various decisions that various companies have made, independent of each other, that I'm hoping that we're reaching a tipping point where players are starting to realize they have to do that. They have to actually stand by what they believe, and they actually have to follow through and give something up. That's what I'm trying to get to. The inspiring part of the podcast is I hope people realize that you have to make a sacrifice if you believe in something. If you believe that games should be released in a non-buggy quality state, you have to stand by that and stop buying them when they don't.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then the same applies here. If you think that game companies should not stand by and kowtow to regimes that censor and oppress their people, then you have to stand by that and actually follow through. So that's my encouragement to our listeners is please don't support Blizzard.
And pre-order culture, monetization tactics, microtransactions, those are trite compared to this. This is a human rights issue, and this actually merits a real boycott.
Absolutely.
Like being mad at WB Montreal for making Shadow of War have microtransactions, that's one thing, because you're trying to dictate what kind of games you want to buy as a consumer. That's like you trying to negotiate.
That's still important.
That's important.
But this is
boiling point level. Like, what does Blizzard stand for? And all I want, this is where Termite's take is, I want to know what Blizzard's response is, but I also want to know the puppeteers pulling the strings, and that's Activision.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Activision has not been in a good light at all this entire year. We have an episode earlier about the state of the gaming industry where we go into detail about Activision. Bungie left them. Destiny is gone. They've breached out. Like, the writing was on the wall that Activision's not doing well. And what about all of this decisions to make Blizzard do this is dictated by Activision, and how is Blizzard behaving under that umbrella?
Well,
that
keep in mind,
completely unknown.
Yeah.
No one from Activision has said a word. And Blizzard's response has been very PR. And
their original, again, there's like response, and then there's the original, like, they haven't actually had a response beyond their original ruling.
Yeah.
So all that, in Blizzard's favor, I will say, number one, I understand the issue is complicated, but number two, I will say, apparently there was some reports that on their Irving, California headquarters, they have a statue of Thrall outside their office, right? Yeah. And around the statue, there's their company ideals. And one of them are think globally. Yeah. And the other one is, this one's the one that's, I saw it posted on Age Like Fine Milk, which is the subreddit. And it is Every Voice Matters. Those two ideals were covered up. Someone internal to Blizzard had gone and taken a piece of paper and covered up those two ideals. Obviously, nothing else.
Protest.
Yeah, that is an obvious act of protest. Yeah. So I will absolutely acknowledge that there are people within Blizzard that probably think that this is as disgusting as the rest of us. It's even possible, again, that Blizzard's esports wing kind of operates independent from the development wing.
Right.
So it's entirely possible that even as high as J. Allen Brack, the president, we don't even know what his thoughts are on the issue. So it's entirely possible the development team themselves are like, this is wrong. This is not.
Yeah. The individual people who are fingers on the keyboard.
But even the entire teams could, the people who are actually creating the assets, like... Which, again, I was thinking today kind of connects to our ongoing discussion about, like, unionization.
Yeah.
Like, one of the things a union could provide is protection for developers when their producers make stupid things like PR nightmares like this. You know what I mean? That is a pro-union argument, just something to throw out there in the midst of all the other crap going on. It's like, there's clearly... it could have been just the IT guy who did it, but like there's clearly some dissent. I'm not saying that. I'm not speaking for the development teams, but there's clearly dissent amongst the ranks of Blizzard on this particular issue.
Yep.
And so I hope that goes as far as the developers, because I don't want, I want to believe, this goes back to kind of another foundational reason why we even talked about this. I want to know that the people making my games are good people.
Yeah.
I know there's money, and money is always a factor. It's always a huge factor.
It's
we
all
are
it is.
capitalists, and we believe in that system.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be the only factor. You know what I mean? We should also think about it should be money balanced by ethics. That is kind of how capitalism has worked as a democracy for so long.
Yeah.
I just want to know that the people making my games are acting ethically and behaving ethically. You know what I mean? That's why I'm so passionate about this issue, is because unfortunately I can't believe they're doing that, and therefore I have to now act ethically, which is to say I will not support you or your products, and I'm going to hit you where it hurts. Yep. So that is the crux of this.
This could be a controversial stance where Termite is, but I think the ban of the player is fine. I think the firing of the two streamers is fine. Blizzard needs to say something.
Their missteps have been their further censorship, if you will, of shutting down their... It's like, you're right, those things taken in a bubble are one thing.
Right.
The lack of response...
Yep, that's a problem.
And the shutting down of all conversation...
That's an
even more problem.
Yeah.
Again, it's all just like... It's all...
They want to control the message.
Indicative of a systemic issue, but they've lost control of the message, so now they need to do damage control, and they're not doing that. Again, this could change. Tomorrow morning, they could issue a statement.
Even right now.
That's why we said, they could have issued a statement while we're recording. Yep. This episode's not going to air till Monday, so hopefully some movement has happened. I still think the banning of the player needs to be reversed.
Yeah.
I still think that they need to come out and say, like, they need to publicly apologize to the people they miscommunicated to, which is us, and they need to reaffirm and reassert. They honestly, they need to just come out and say, we are in support of Hong Kong. You know what
if
I mean?
they did that, I'd be okay with everything.
If they were to come
that's
out and
like,
say
done.
we are in support of Hong Kong, like then
then
because then that says that they are willing to sacrifice, they're willing to put a hard line stance.
Here's where
China
Blizzard could shine. Here's a potential for them.
Yeah.
They've withdrawn. They've followed their policy. They wrote their policy for their Hearthstone. Right. They followed it. You're fired. Scorched earth. You're done. Right. We followed the policy we wrote. We're in favor of Hong Kong. Here's the player. Come to United States and play on our U.S. team, and we will fund you, and we will support you, and we will support Hong Kong.
And we rewrite the law. We rewrite the rule.
And we have already started the process of rewriting our policies to be a little bit better in this regard. Like if they did that, I'm totally fine with the actions that have already happened, and they can reverse that ship, and then okay, we're good.
Yeah, I totally agree. If they were to take those actions, that would be a huge move. I also have to, I have to think of like, hypothetically, part of what rubs me the wrong way about this whole issue is like it's the context of the fact that they say it's our sole discretion, and then they chose to exert their discretion on this issue. So I have to consider like, if that person had come out and said "Make America Great Again" or "Black Lives Matter," you know what I mean? Like
they probably would have done the same thing.
I don't know if they would have done the same thing because again, it's at their discretion. They don't specify because this is the same company that every Pride Month announces a new Overwatch character that's gay. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying anything negative or positive about that move. I'm simply saying that is a political move.
Yep.
So the fact that Blizzard can just throw around what is and is not acceptable speech is part of what rubs. If you're going to have a rule like that, you need to be specific about what is and isn't allowed, because otherwise it's just arbitrary because it's, quote, at your discretion.
Right.
So that's what, again, part of what rubs me the wrong way.
This was like, not hilarious, but I was thinking if there was an American esports tournament and someone had come out after winning a tournament and put on a MAGA hat and said, "Make America Great Again, vote Trump 2020," and then Blizzard I would assume Blizzard would have came out and said, "Okay, you can't do that. That's political. You're fired. You violated our policies. You're done." And everyone would have praised it. They would have praised Blizzard for that. They would have, because most of the gaming industry is left-leaning. That is a topic for another night.
Exactly. Like, but
Blizzard would not be in hot water at all. But they would have done and acted in the exact same way. And so, like, that's why this rubs Termite in the wrong way.
But I also, again, I have to then consider. You have to then consider the fact that, again, we have to throw. Right now, we're speaking hypothetically, so we have to throw a ton of different contexts onto it. If they were to come out and say Black Lives Matter, by their policy, they would have to enforce it the same way, even if Blizzard themselves agreed with that policy.
And that's where the gray area.
Or furthermore, like
discretion.
if they were to say, all love is equal or whatever, the rally cry these days for LGBTQ community is like, again, Blizzard themselves have already come out and made that political statement. So if another player were to do that, it would be hypocritical for them to enforce that.
Right.
So that's where it's money, and that's why I say like the whole at Blizzard's discretion is a misstep. That rule I agree with you 100%. That needs to be rewritten to either be more clarifying or just done away with altogether.
Yeah.
Because it just is arbitrary, and you run into this muddy circumstance where it becomes a PR nightmare for them because they chose to come down hard on this issue, and their motivations are so clear. There's no way they can get away with this without people perceiving it as what it is.
They want money from China.
They want money from China,
which is a huge chunk of their income.
Huge chunk of their market. Yeah, exactly. So
if you read in our headline of any company's stock dropping at 12%, which is what you just said they have in China, if they just cut out all ties to China and lost 12% of their company value, that's like the most terrifying headline you could ever read for any company ever. Like, it seems little because there's 88% fine, 12% is not everything, but to business and to Wall Street and to stockholders and to stakeholders, etc., that's a massive number. You do not want that on your quarterly report that you took a 12% loss and have no plan to get that back.
It's sad because, again, we did our little PR spin DLC earlier.
Right. And that was tongue-in-cheek for this.
It was tongue-in-cheek for this, but, like, imagine, though, the PR spin to seeing, this company just took a 12% dive overnight. The PR spin is, wear that like a badge of honor. Say, yeah, we sacrificed 12% of our market share.
Right. Why not do that?
On principle, because we support
the very same
the rights
thing
of people
that Epic Games is doing right now with their Epic Games Store when they're saying, we're not taking a 30% cut, we're taking an 8, a 12, I don't even know what the percent cut is.
Of course, you'd have to turn this back around on me.
Well, I'm not
No,
against you. I'm actually,
I see,
this argument for Epic Games Store is actually also in favor for what Blizzard should be doing,
Right.
in that cut the ties to China, take the hit on the profit, and use that as an altruistic thing. Epic took the profits from Fortnite and is investing into developers, buying their exclusivity in their game
They're
store.
They're taking a stand, and they're willing to sacrifice for it.
Let's take these indie developers and let's provide for them and allow creativity to flourish, and we have the extra money from Fortnite that's rampant and crazy rich. Like, it's the same kind of principle.
Yeah.
Why can't Blizzard do that?
Yeah.
Activision needs popular like headlines right now.
They
They're in hot water with Call of Duty, the Modern Warfare, with the white phosphorus like thing happening right now. And now Blizzard's in hot water with this, and they've been completely silent. Activision Blizzard's in a horrible spot right now.
Right, yeah.
And
it is definitely
going to affect the future of everything.
Yeah, they definitely
of Blizzard.
It's so hard to exactly. It's so hard to look at the situation and not see. I mean, I do feel bad. I don't feel that bad because they put themselves in the situation, but I do understand that now they're being cornered. They're being put in a corner, and both companies are going to be forced to choose their way forward.
Yep.
Are you Blizzard and Activision going to throw your lots in with the Chinese, or are you going to like stick with the companies that are your home? They're both American companies, so are they going to, again, they kind of have to, they now have to, they have to pick a side, is what it kind of boils down to. I feel bad that they have to be forced to pick a side, but they're coming through a circumstance where they're going to have to. So, okay, we're an hour and 30 minutes in. We should probably stop there, but we do want to hear what your thoughts are on this issue, listeners. So please reach out to us. We have an active Discord channel where you can discuss this with us. We are probably going to be discussing it there over the course of the next few weeks before it comes out. So please join in on that discussion. We have a Reddit where you can talk about this. And we have, you can reach out to us on private means if you don't feel like exposing your ideas.
You can Facebook message us. You can email us. All 80-bit
We'll
Podsmash.
keep any of your comments anonymous if you want them to, but we can also talk about them on the show if you feel like they should be talked about. So, so Termite, tell us all the places they can find us and reach us.
Our Discord server is, the link to that is an open invite for anyone who wants to click on it. It's posted with every single episode in the show notes, so you should be able to see that in iTunes and in Google Play, as well as on our Facebook and social media posts. Every episode that goes live has the Discord link there. That's the most responsive way to reach out to us. You can also hit us up on Facebook, 80-bit Podsmash. You can hit us on Reddit, as you mentioned, 80-bit Podsmash, all lowercase, all one word, no hyphens, no funny business. You can find us at, if you want to find our podcast elsewhere, we are a weekly video game podcast. We launch every Monday at midnight. You can go to 80bitpodsmash.com. That's our landing website, where you'll find links to Google Play, Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, as well as our RSS feed, which you can plug in any app. If we are not somewhere you want us to be, let us know. We'll put ourselves there for you. And I think that covers social media, Discord, podcast services around the world.
Let's do it.
So we are
also sometimes stream on Twitch.
We do. Twitch.tv/80bitpodsmash.
And we have a YouTube channel that mostly just has our episodes, but you can then find those Twitch streams later.
The VODs go live on youtube.com/80bitpodsmash.
Yep. All right, there's one little tidbit. I literally just got this. This is hot off the presses.
Let's go.
People are trying to Winnie the Pooh Overwatch characters.
Oh, no.
By, photoshopping. So Mei, one of the, Asian characters in Overwatch, they photoshopped her with imagery associated with the Hong Kong protests. The gas mask, the umbrella, and all of the, Democracy Now! Stuff like that. So it's an effort to try to get the character banned in China.
Wow.
By associating it with so I thought that was kind of cool. I had seen people say to do that, but I hadn't actually seen any images, so now it's happened. So that's kind of fun.
And that's happening in the game?
No. It's happening in artwork and associated imagery. But if that again, that's how the Winnie the Pooh got banned. Is it wasn't Disney that was like, hey, Xi Jinping or whatever looks like Winnie the Pooh. It was people just on the internet doing it. So they're trying to do the same grassroots thing essentially with May in order to get the
We'll
character
see what happens.
and the game banned.
It's crazy.
So
Crazy.
hot take developing, happening right now. It's
Yeah.
got a message from someone about it. So, anyways,
See you next week.